Hi, as promised, I am including a video that will give you an overview for the final exam for Gero 365 class. I will begin by letting you know that there will be items on the final exam that will be discussed in our next class on Tuesday, December 4th. So I highly encourage you to attend that course or that class because there will be a video and Olivia Sykes' presentation for her honors project, and there will be questions that will be from those two things that will be on the final exam. So those things will not be included in this video. But what I thought I'd do is just give you an overview and a very quick recap and hit the highlights of the areas from our discussions since the midterm exam, and to let you know that the final exam is going to include the topics that have been covered beginning from page 237 till basically the end of the textbook. And we began our unit after our midterm talking about aging, healthcare, and society. And we began with discussing the issue of what to do when an elderly person isn't taking care of themselves or making good decisions for themselves. And we then talked about ethics and the ethical principles that are often in conflict with each other when making these decisions about the care for the elderly and people not making good decisions. We've talked about autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, to do no harm. I want to make sure that you understand all of those ethical principles and would be able to define them and understand how they play into decisions for the elderly, and particularly how those issues play into end-of-life decisions. We were talking about people who decide to forego life-sustaining treatment. We've talked about situations where somebody decides to end life-sustaining treatment, and we've talked about how those two things are different than suicide or physician-assisted suicide. So I want to be sure that you understand the difference between foregoing life-sustaining treatment, withholding life-sustaining treatment, active suicide, and physician-assisted suicide. Make sure that you understand the difference between those four things. Then we moved into talking about by the way, going back to ethics, understand what was covered in the lecture of the process that's called balancing when there is an ethical issue at hand. And when you are a healthcare professional trying to address an issue related to a client or decision that has to be made, there is a process called balancing. And that was one of the reasons why I had you do that case study where with the two examples of the housekeeper that overheard an independent living resident overheard his phone conversation, or the other one was about staff waking people up early in the morning in nursing homes. I want you to be able to understand how to take these ethical principles and discuss them as it relates to a case. So be sure that you understand the balancing approach. And if you missed the lecture, the class lecture that day, you may need to connect with one of your classmates who can fill you in on that. Okay, then we moved into talking about social and economic outlook. And pretty much the remainder of the course has been talking about what does the future look like with all of these boomers moving into retirement. What does that mean for our Social Security system? What does it mean financially for boomers? What does it mean for how we define and think about retirement? I need to back up because I did skip over something. I also want to be sure that you understand the various advanced directives. that are available to us and to older adults so that we can express our healthcare wishes in advance. And what happens when we are no longer able to advocate for ourselves, an advance directive allows another person to advocate and make decisions on our behalf. So understand what an advance directive is, and also please understand what the acronym POLST stands for, POLSTE. That is, the POLST form is in probably your week 9 folder, maybe it's week 10, but please be sure you understand what that acronym stands for. So now going back to the economic and social outlook of the future, be sure that you know the difference between Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, pensions, Social Security disability income, and understand what the concept of dependency ratio means as it relates to Social Security. Dependency ratio is essentially a number, a mathematical way of looking at the number of people that are going to be required to be in the workforce to support the upcoming, well, to support the retirement needs of a particular generation. So understand the definition of dependency ratio. Understand all of the controversies that are associated with Social Security. How should it be funded? Understand the concepts of intergenerational dependence and intergenerational equity. Understand the difference between those two, if you will, philosophies of funding the Social Security system. And understand the controversies around Social Security and some of the reform ideas that we discussed in our classes about some of the changes that could be made to Social Security, to the system, to make it more sustainable and to make sure that the fund is able to support the retirement needs of the upcoming baby boomer generation. Be sure you read the article in your book called Boomsday. It is article number 47. Understand what the message is of that article. Understand cumulative disadvantage. We've talked about that several times. How does the concept of cumulative disadvantage affect the financial security of people as they age? Then last week we watched a video about the crisis in retirement and the financial crisis in retirement. So I will probably have 1, maybe 2 questions on the final related to that video and what the core message was of that video. Let's see. Productive aging. We need to talk about what and how is retirement and the concept of retirement going to change moving forward. We talked in class last week about the conventional way of retirement and that it's associated with leaving work and disengaging from society, and how we talked about those 2 conventional ways of thinking about retirement are going to be turned around and changed by the baby boomers. So understand what some of those changes might look like for the baby boomer and what they're going to demand out of their retirement years. I think if you focus on, did I mention elder abuse? No, I didn't. Elder abuse, that's something else I want you to know. What is it? Where does it occur? And who does it occur? And who's most at risk for elder abuse? So understand that concept and understand what some of the misconceptions are about elder abuse, and I will give you a tip. Elder abuse is not the most prevalent place where elder abuse occurs is not in a nursing facility. Know where the most prevalent place that elder abuse occurs. Okay. I think I have covered everything that you can probably expect on the final exam. Please be sure to come to class on Tuesday because there will be additional items on the final exam that we will cover on Tuesday. If you miss class, you're going to miss that information. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, our last class together. Also, a reminder, please fill out your class evaluation. That's very important to me so that I can get your feedback and know how I can change the class moving forward and continue to make improvements to the class so that it's the most effective and meaningful class for the students. So I really appreciate your time to do that. All right, have a good weekend. I'll see you next week.